And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
Together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename too.
We're going to be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
Last 2 weeks proved it.
Today is our 93rd episode.
It's about time.
Huh?
We've been stalled at 92 for weeks.
Well, yes, that's because when I'm not here, the show doesn't happen. We covered that part already.
That's true. We did cover that. Well, how was your vacation then? Was it sunny, warm, relaxing?
Yes to the first two, but I did make the mistake of bringing my infant and toddler with me, so it wasn't exactly relaxing. In parenting circles, we say it's a relocation, not a vacation.
Well, you're really selling it.
In any case, we're back on the air. Do you remember what it is we do here?
Ooh, I think we do one-man shows and dad jokes, as far as I can remember.
It says here that we answer design and development questions about idle champions.
Oh, okay, we can do that. Yeah, anyway, if you don't ask any questions, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of his visit to... Oh, gotta move your cursor. I can't read that, Justin. North Island Wildlife Recovery Center. Wait, is that somewhere? That doesn't sound like a vacation location.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. If you don't ask any questions, you're in for a lot of hoots and caws and other assorted injured bird noises.
Bored, you say?
Bird noises. I've been preparing my turkey call all day. It's going to be really good.
Well, I'm sorry to inform you that your time has been wasted. We already have questions.
Not again.
Although, actually, let's hear the turkey call. Do you have a turkey call? I want to hear the turkey call. Yep.
None of the turkeys turned to look at me when I did that.
I'm sorry to inform you, your time has been wasted. Oh, dear. All right, let's see what we have for questions. As always, we have pulled some questions from the previous show that we didn't get to, which, of course, was, in fact, 2 weeks ago's show. We'll answer some of those while we're waiting for new questions to come in. But before we get to those, I do have some updates on items we flagged to get looked at by the dev team. So without any further stalling for time, because that is definitely what we're doing, let's get started with those. All right. Fixes and new features. So this is a short list, but it is a sweet list. Well, at least it's a short list. First item on the list was that we did get the arrows in for fine-tuning the selection of blacksmith contracts on touchscreen. That was a request that had been on the list for a short period, but that was an easy one to get in. And then we have been doing some graphic size optimization. This was something that we had done actually with the WebGL version of the game back when we had a WebGL version of the game, and it was something that had been slated on the list to get into the to all the other versions for a significant amount of time. But we did finally get that in, and this does result in the graphic size, like the file sizes, being reduced by about 50 to 60%, which is good for good on a couple of accounts. One is that it's lower bandwidth when you download them, and they load faster. That actually went live 2 days ago, so you may or may not have noticed it yet, but it's definitely an improvement to graphic loading time and bandwidth usage. So that actually is all there is on the fixes and new features. To the in-progress items, we do still have it so that make it so that seasons champions don't appear in the free time gate choice. A pass on how many chests you can buy at a time, given that you can now open 1,000 at a time. Making sure everything has hotkeys, adding a hide UI button for the lower UI, confirming that all areas have distractions properly assigned to them, preventing a player that has been kicked from a Trials lobby from just rejoining the Trials lobby, ordering favor display to have a sensible order to it, adding sort order for price to the shop. I don't know why that's not there to begin with. And then an option to sort by slot on the blacksmithing contract screen. Looks like we've got nothing for announcements, so into leftover questions from the previous show.
Hooray!
First leftover question here is from Phoenixian Ultimatum. And they ask, is there any plan/interest in increasing the rate we get chests from ongoing events? The current method of run to 50 and reset is unengaging and tedious. Maybe a small chance to get one from boss loot bags to make deep pushes worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this question. Actually, I saw it 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago when we did the last stream and flagged it, but we didn't quite get to it. I think it's an interesting kind of thought as to if there's any ways we can kind of clean up sort of how you spend your event currency to get chests. It's definitely like if you have a lot of event currency, running to 50 and resetting and running to 50 and resetting and running to 50 and resetting is definitely it's more tedious. You can set a modron to do it for you with automation. It's not too hard, and it'll burn through all of your event currency pretty quickly. But I think some thought into some way that we can make deep runs rewarding while not making it so that you can get way more chests for way less currency, I think is something worth thinking about. No promises on that regard, but some sort of way to do that I think would be interesting.
Sorry, I'm just looking in the chat. Did they clip the turkey?
Apparently they did. This is all your fault.
I'll personally take responsibility for that. No problem. Hands down. Okay, next question. This is from Reverend Blackwood, asking, ever consider the player character as a character? Stats slightly adjusted, head choices, hair and beard class choice, choices of 4 to 5. Wow, 4 to 5 classes. A character with optimization can make speed or gold find or DPS, melee or range.
Yeah, so I've got the joke answer about this, and then I've got the serious answer about this. Which one do you want to hear first?
Oh, I think we have to hear the joke answer first.
Okay, so the joke answer is yes, absolutely. We're actually in the process of importing the Baldur's Gate 3 character creator into Idle Champions verbatim. So that's happening. No, just kidding. That was the joke answer. The real answer is that we have considered this before.
The real answer is it's the Fallout character creator.
we have considered it before. Right. Oh dear. No, the real answer is we have considered this kind of thing, but generally every time we think about it, it just comes out to just far too complicated to both implement and to balance within the game. What abilities would you put on this character? What ability choices would you put on this character? I think what would generally happen with something is players would figure out kind of the optimal one, and then it would just essentially be a character of that sort of optimal setup. And so I think it's one of those things that sounds really cool and probably would be very fun to work on, but would be very, very difficult to balance within the game. And so probably not something we're going to do.
Okay. Next question is an interesting question. This one is from Honda Hero 21, saying, I watched a Bushwhacker video. How did these developers end up doing Idle Champions? The two games seem so different.
Yeah, it is a good question. I think the simplest
I ask myself
answer
that every day. No,
I think the simplest answer is we made Bushwhacker I don't know, 13 years ago. Bushwhacker 2 is probably more than 10 years ago.
Has Bushwhacker 2 been going for 10 years?
I think so. I think we're into like year 10 repetitions of the events there. So basically, just those are some of the games we made a long time ago, and over time we've kind of evolved, and both Dave and I are into sort of more hardcore games and the kind of flash games, flash style web games that we made back in the day. And so we've been sort of slowly moving towards stuff that's a little bit more involved.
And there were evolutionary steps there, of course, because Crusaders, which had the same sort of idle mechanics as Champions, did have the Bushwhacker characters in it.
Yes, there was an important step there.
That's right. Sort of Bushwhacker characters into this mechanic, and then this mechanic with D&D characters, and so the Bushwhacker characters got left by the wayside.
Yeah,
or at least they're still in Bushwhacker.
Yeah. So that's how we got there. Let's see, and the last question here from a previous show is from Henry Lonewin, who says, suggestion for next season, make everything after the goal level a roll for a random reward button, so it's clear it's a bonus and endless.
Done.
That's a pretty good suggestion. Yeah.
We'll take that under advisement.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Let's move on to some questions from this week.
First question of the week is from Library of Akasha. And the question is, Karlach, best girl... I hope I'm saying that right. Best girl when...
Probably not.
Oh, well. I'd like her before Shadowheart. Also, will the Dark Urge be making an appearance?
And we've got a note here from Mars that says, yeah, Karlach is indeed the best companion. I haven't gotten to them yet because I've gotten a total of 45 minutes of Baldur's Gate under my belt because I've just been very busy on my vacation of all things. But yeah, I think I was peeking at the calendar of upcoming champions, and I think I saw something that looked kind of like this. I don't know. It might have been Karlach. It might have been some other character, but maybe.
I guess we'll never know.
Yeah. There's no way to know.
Okay, next question. This is from Randram. Question. Oh, no, it says question from Emote. Are you still planning on adding the opt-out for auto-claiming unclaimed season rewards? Mine and others' gear list accounts are getting very worried.
Yeah, so the answer to this is, and I asked Peter about this morning because we had a little preview of the what the auto-claim dialogue looked like. And the answer is we were unable to get this in for season 4, but we are aware of the fact that people are looking for this, and so it is something that we're going to support via support tickets. So if you've got a Gearless account and you didn't want to get those rewards, we should have a fairly quick way of undoing them via the support avenue for season 4. And then my hope is we'd get that option in for season 5 and beyond.
And hopefully there aren't that many Gearless accounts. It's if it turns out that there are hundreds of them, we're in trouble on that front.
I think Peter was going to just make a one-click button for support to use. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. This is from Garwar. Any ETA on the collections update?
Yeah, so my understanding is that we're chugging along on the collections dialogue updates, and I think we're about halfway through implementing the dialogues from what I've understood from Wilson lately.
Yeah,
so.
I checked in with him actually yesterday, and he was at about, it looked like about 60% of the dialogues were completed. So it's been moving along, albeit there is a lot of work to do there.
There's a lot of stats that we're trying to compile for you guys, so hopefully when it comes out, it will be super useful and fun to play with to see where you are in the game.
That's right. How many things are in fact complete, and how many progress bars have been left unfilled?
And you get to 100%. Let's see. The next question here is from Randram. This is one that we've definitely heard before. This is also actually emote via Randram. And they're asking, please could you add an option for allowing the default skin of champions to be in the pool for the random skin?
Yes.
Just move it up to the in progress.
I feel like we can add an option for that. But
Yeah.
it is one of those ones where it feels like it needs to be an option and not a always on. Because then you roll the default skin, and that feels like for some players that may be like, what? It didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do that. Okay. Next question. This is from Garwar. Garwar asks, any current plans to add another gem cost evergreen champion to the game?
So I don't think so. I think it's kind of interesting. We've been talking about like evergreen unlock champions from campaigns, and sort of our initial plan going into most campaigns was to do two evergreen champions per campaign, one kind of earlier in the campaign and then one kind of later in the campaign. And the thing that's kind of happened as we've progressed through the first 6 years of the game is that we've noticed that we have a lot of champions. We get 17 champions every year from events, generally one evergreen, and I think we kind of came to the conclusion that adding more evergreens is just something we want to be very careful about and very slow about. So I think we're still focusing on doing at least one evergreen for each campaign, But I think any other evergreens outside of that, like a gem cost evergreen, for example, as in this question, I think are fairly unlikely, because every time we spend sort of cool functionality on an evergreen, it's cool functionality that we are not using on an event champion, and we need to come up with additional cool functionality for the next event champions, because the events just keep on rolling every year. So yeah, I don't think there's any plans to add a gem cost evergreen champion to the game, or really any other evergreens outside of one per campaign, but that could change at any time.
Okay. Moving back up to the questions here. Let's see. Next question. This is from Library of Akasha. Question. Requesting +2 strength, +1 charisma, and epic I'm too old for this shit feat for Vi.
Hey, that doesn't say shit.
That's what
You're not allowed to say that word. Actually, probably
I think we can.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any attribute feats that currently, and I would like her to be viable for Zerial. The other one is more for speed, as per usual.
Speed. So I think in regards to Vi feats, I would say check in again with us next week, and I will answer this question next week.
You gonna answer that the same way next week?
Nope, I'm going to answer it a different way next week.
Okay. Next question. This is from Vovcast. Are you planning to increase the 2001 zone cap limit before end of 2024?
Before the end of 2024. Dude, I don't know what we're going to do before the end of 2023, let alone 2024. But I would say, I think if I was a betting developer, and I am not, but if I were, I would say that yes, I think it is likely that the zone cap, the area cap, will be lifted or will be set higher before the end of 2024. I also wouldn't be surprised if it was set higher before the end of 2023, but I think I would bet a smaller amount on that.
Yeah, up to 2023. And then the next one will be 2024. We'll just go by 1 year. This is one zone per year. It's going to be a long run.
The new zone cap is going to be the current year. Yeah, that's a great idea.
That's easy enough. We could actually just set it to that in the code. Get the current
That's
year.
true.
Set it. Yeah.
That would be easy, but auto scale.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Next question. This question is from Garwar. He asks, Sean said he thinks you changed the time gate buckets recently. Did you? And if so, how did they change? If not, when are you going to change them?
This is a good question, because I know that we designed some changes for the time gate buckets, but I don't know if they've been implemented. But I can tell you what the design will be or is, depending on whether or not they've been released or not. But the new time gate buckets are basically trying to bucket out the sort of retired champions into all. So I think we went with 2 buckets for retired champions and 1 bucket for non-retired champions. And we set it up so it kind of auto fills those buckets. So the first bucket will have about 50% of the kind of retired champions, which by the end of this month, by the end of Bright Swords, will be any champion from year 4 or earlier in events. So I think the first 2 buckets are the first 50% of those retired champions, and the second bucket is the second 50% of those retired champions. And then the third bucket is basically all non-retired event champions. And the idea is that those buckets will automatically update over time, without us having to go and manually switch which champions are in which buckets. So that every time you get a free time gate opening, you've basically got, you're going to get 2 sort of retired champions that you can't get from events, and then 1 champion that you can get from events. And then the weighting will still be there for always getting at least 1 champion that you don't already have. So odds are you'll get an offer in a free time gate for a champion you don't have from events that are retired, quote unquote. So that is the design for the change. I am not 100% sure whether or not that change is live or not. I seem to recall that Peter said that he had got that in, but I do not know. And someone's asking by what criteria. It would be by release date, so champion ID. So it'd be, I guess, at the beginning of High Harvest Tide this year, it will be year 1 and 2 champions in the first bucket, year 3 and 4 champions in the second bucket, and then year 5 and 6. And then, of course, any new year 7 champions in the third bucket. Whew. Okay. Next question here is from Vovcast, and it's colored blue, which means I get to ask it to Dave. And
down
it
here
is
coloring everything. Not blue per se, but you know.
Wow. Okay. And the question from Vovcast is, what are those game definitions loading and checking when starting the game?
Oh, you edited the question. I swear it said that are the game definitions.
Yeah, I edited it for what I think it was trying to
fair
ask.
enough. So when the game initially loads, we do download a series of definitions for the game itself, which includes things like, you know, what the heroes are, their names, their graphics, what all of the graphics, what their file name is, where to download them from, things like what all of the loot definitions look like, things like what else is in that initial set. I think the text, all of the different text in the various languages is part of the game definitions loaded when the game starts. Monster defines get included in that, and basically sort of any of the data that actually drives and runs the game are in those game definitions. We do have some that we blowed out because of sort of a size or sort of limitations on that when you actually start an adventure, specific adventure data gets loaded at that time because there's just so much of that. But sort of the stuff that's shared across campaigns, across adventures gets loaded in that portion at the beginning that says, you know, loading game defines or game definitions. So hopefully that answers the question. Let's see. What do we got next, Justin?
Let me scroll back up. I was also highlighting questions. Yay, questions. This next question here is from Rough Rider 1995, and they ask, can we get a way to jump to a specific zone or jump more than 5 zones at a time with a key combination? Ooh, they want more hotkeys that you have to unlock by doing adventures.
Wait, is that how we're unlocking hotkeys going forward?
I thought that's what was, it was hotkeys and options that you unlock by.
Oh.
Scroll back several episodes.
Yes. Options that you unlock by completing adventures.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that's a bad idea, actually. I know that's sort of a question that comes up from time to time to quickly be able to get between areas. I feel like we discussed having sort of an advanced dialogue for option for the jumping between zones that didn't get implemented at this point, which was going to have potentially some kind of, you know, jump 50, jump 100, type in the area you want to go to, which I think would be a good option depending on sort of what you're looking at doing there. But I think having something that's like go back, you know, maybe holding down an arrow key and hitting something to go 5 or 10 or 15 might be useful. But I do think the dialogue with just the actual like type in the number kind of thing might be more. It's hard to tell. I think the real question here is sort of what's the goal behind that. If it's just to quickly get between zones, or if there's a specific zone you want to jump to, that would kind of more sort of define how we would implement a UI for that, or whether it's just a hotkey. Next question. This is
good luck.
What's that? Oh no. Katori Mapia. I'm sorry. I'm good luck was right. Justin, you try.
Nope. I don't have to answer the question. I highlighted it for you to ask me.
No, you do have to answer the question. You don't have to ask the question.
I have to say the name.
Katori Mapia asks, are changes planned to Spurt and his ultimate cooldown, which gives those huge buffs when heavily invested? Do I lose my contracts if I spend 100k eye levels on him and he gets nerfed?
Yeah, so thanks for the question, Katori. And so the answer to this is if we were to, so we are aware of the fact that Spurt definitely has some scaling issues when you put a lot of contracts onto his ultimate cooldown increase item, which is a unique type of item in the game. And I think if we were to cap the item level of that piece of equipment, you wouldn't lose your contracts. The way that it works is if we cap an item level and your item is already over that level, we will refund you contracts equivalent to the number of item levels that were removed. So yeah, if you invest in that and then we end up deciding to nerf it, you would not lose anything. So I would say go ahead and invest. Worst we can do is nerf it, and then you just get your stuff back.
All right. Next question. This is a leading question. This one is from Rough Rider 1995. And they ask, if emergence events are meant to span between seasons, then why did this event start on week 10 of the current season?
That's a good question. I'm not sure we've announced the reason for that yet.
All right. Well, we'll just move on to the next one then, if that's the case.
Yeah, I would say emergence events generally lead up to new things coming out. So
because Baldur's Gate 3, that's not the answer.
Maybe because Baldur's Gate 3 could just be our answer for anything at this point.
That's right. Why didn't this champion get done on time? Because Jarrett was playing Baldur's Gate 3.
We meant to get the date correct, but we were playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay, next question. This question is from OG17, asking, epic bounty contracts have a blue seal, which is fine for the item card or inventory icon with their purple border. But when the scroll art is isolated, in the past, rewards the blue makes it look more rare. Is it too late to make the seal purple to match the epic blacksmith scroll art?
Yeah, that's a really interesting observation.
Did he do, like, the color on the scrolls is different, is it not, per scroll? Did we have a mismatch?
I don't know. There could be a mismatch there, because I know, like, originally we didn't have any common scrolls, because you could only get bounty, or you only get bounty contracts and then blacksmithing contracts from gold chests. But then I think,
saying only epics have a seal.
And it's blue.
And it's blue.
It feels like this was just kind of a mismatch with the design. It probably should be purple. It should be purple. So okay. I will tell the art team to make it purple and see how they react. No, purple. It feels like that would be a relatively quick art fix.
For sure.
Actually, before I say yes to that, actually, let me undo that, because it is very likely that we have some other art assets that have scrolls in them, like baked into them, that would then not look like the scrolls in game.
That's also probably true, yep.
So this is probably a huge can of worms to change.
Or at least it would lead to every week there being someone pointing out a different scroll that didn't match.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what we can do with that.
I would say it's a very interesting observation, and
it's an unfortunate mismatch.
Yeah. And it might not be something that is an easy fix.
Answer. Deal with it, okay. We're in the chat. All right. Next question.
Turn into Garwar's guides for much more blunt answers to these questions.
Yes. Okay. Next question here, which I thought was a curious question, is also from OG17, asking, could there be a button to clear the current bud value? This would be helpful for testing, quests, farming, patrons, etc.
Yeah, that's a really interesting. It's a very interesting question. I can definitely see the use cases for it. Unfortunately, I can also see
misuses of it, accidental
uses of it. This is one of the things that we talk about pretty often, where we can put things into the game that if players don't understand what they are or how they're to be used, that if we put them too prominently, it's very possible that people can muck up their day and end up having to open support tickets asking why the game is all messed up, even though it is technically their own doing that caused it to be messed up. And the best example of this is actually back in Bushwhacker 2, the game that was asked about earlier on. But we've told this story before, where it's we released this item in Bushwhacker 2, which was a trinket that you could equip, and it was called the One Ring. And when you equipped it, your character disappeared. which was great. It was basically like an Easter egg for Lord of the Rings, because I think Lord of the Rings had come out around that time or something like that. Maybe Return of the King. Maybe a little bit before that. Maybe I was just rewatching the extended editions at that time, because that's how content went into that game. Whatever I was watching on TV, we started putting Easter eggs for that in the game. Anyway, so anyway, we had this item that when you equipped, it made your character invisible. And for most people, this was fine, because they would equip it, see like, oh, I'm invisible, haha, and then they would unequip it, and they'd be fine. But the edge cases happened when people would equip it and then log out of the game and then come back a few days or a few weeks later, not realize that they'd equipped it, and be like, open a ticket being like, my character has disappeared. Like, I can't see them anymore. What is going on? And so I think this is one of those things where we have to just be very careful about putting this type of stuff in, because there's a potential for accidental misuse.
Yes, it's the one ring that in the darkness brings support tickets. So yeah. With that said, I mean, I still think it is an interesting idea, and I think if we were to do some sort of adventure or mode in the game where you can like test formations, this would absolutely be something that we would include in that. It's funny, sort of reading what they're talking about in the chat. I think what we should do is actually provide them with a console that you can bring up, and then you could type console commands into the console. So, like slash, clear bud, and that would be and that could actually open up a whole wide variety of different sort of advanced features that you could use for testing or. It's not a terrible idea. Sorry. I mean, it's not quite like the API that Jarrett wants to give people. Yeah. Okay.
Let's go on to the next question.
I think it's giveaway time, though, Justin.
Oh, is it giveaway time? Oh, it is too. Gosh, look at that. Time flies when you're having whatever it is we're having here. Fun?
One-man shows,
Fun.
dad jokes.
So it is time for our world famous giveaway that I'm sure you have all missed through the last 2 weeks. You've probably all just been coming into chat and typing random words in, hoping to win chests. But it didn't work until this week.
How do you know? You weren't here to see.
Well, that's true.
Maybe it did work.
I'm sorry, I wasn't here to see. Anyway, the way it works this week is there will be a keyword that you type into chat, and once the giveaway starts and you type in that keyword, you will be entered for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice. It can be any type of chest in the game. It can be gold chests, it can be silver chests, it can be gold chests for a specific champion, it can be event chests from a specific weekend promo, if you can remember the name of the weekend promo chest. It can be Modron component chests. It can be almost any type of chest in the game, but it has to exist in the game, and it can't be Glory of Bahamut chests. I don't know why.
It can be aluminum. They're asking for aluminum chests, Justin.
It can be aluminum chests.
They're saying that in my game they exist, right? Because they did. I swear, I showed it on stream.
I'm just saying, if you ask for a type of chest that doesn't exist, you will get nothing. So be very careful about what kind of chest you ask for. It's not actually, we'd probably just tell you that type of chest doesn't exist and should choose a different one. But, for dramatic effect, you only have one shot.
Okay.
I feel like there's an Eminem song in there.
I know. I'm not going to sing it.
Go for it, Dave.
No.
I did the turkey gobble.
This is not a gobble.
You do the rap.
Nope.
No? Okay.
I actually don't know the words off the top of my head. Sorry.
You can look it up. That's the beauty of Google.
All
right. Anyway, good luck to everyone for that giveaway.
Yeah. And don't forget to ask for transparent aluminum chests. They are the best chests.
All right. I'm just going to ask you the next question. This is from OG17.
Oh, no. I don't have an answer for this,
OG17
but go for it.
asks, why were formations built on hex grids instead of square?
Wait, you didn't read the first portion. Why was Crusaders of the Lost Idol formations built on hex grids?
Sure. Why were Crusaders of the Lost Idols formations and then Idol Champions formations built on hex grids instead of square? Square grids would have allowed for row abilities, adding another plane to design and formation building. And you might also distinguish plus and X adjacencies for 2 more ability types. Hexes don't have rows, resulting in perhaps over-heavy reliance on columns. Also, hexes' main strength of equal distances have no use here. Why, Dave? Why did you make this design decision?
That's
Developer
an interesting
/ designer
question
David Whittaker.
That's right. Did we even decide that they were? I mean, hex grids is not. Like, it's not actually built on hex grid per se, right? I think we're just built on whatever grid
it's
layout
an offset.
that we.
It's an offset square grid. Yeah. I mean, technically, every tile has 6 adjacent tiles, so you could definitely make the argument that it is a hex grid.
Yes, but it's not limited to that. We could set any adjacency we wanted.
We could, but we have
like the actual structure that it's built on is actually any adjacency.
Yeah.
Not that we've actually done any of that. Have we? At any point, have you done that?
Very, very rarely.
Made some odd adjacencies due to weird shapes in the formations.
We generally don't do that because of the. Well, it's just more complex. And so I think the answer to this question, which I kind of threw Dave under the bus here, but I believe the answer to this question is the fact that the way that it's set up now, it's just a little bit simpler for people to understand. Speaking, you had a part of your question here where you said you could distinguish, between up and down adjacencies and diagonally adjacencies. Like, I think that just adds more complexity that I don't think the game necessarily needed. I think we already have quite a bit of complexity in the way that formation abilities can affect, adjacent cells, up and down, column cells, forward and backward. And so I think, I think
but that's the result. But I think the original question of why was it built that way, wasn't that actually from like the initial sort of formation layout that we drew, which was just it was literally just like a triangle, and that's how the characters laid out nicely visually, and that's how it ended up.
No, I mean, because I was definitely intentional.
It was 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, right? That was the
yes.
Yeah.
But we were intentional with the way that it was. Yeah, we were intentional with the way that they were offset basically for the purpose of adjacent abilities and wanting to make sure that adjacent abilities weren't affecting 8 other characters and just down to 6 in most cases. I think it just made things a little bit more straightforward.
I mean, I agree that it did, but I feel like we just drew it that way and then we're like, cool, looks good.
I feel like there was a little more thought put into it than that, but I don't have
you can't.
I don't have an exact recollection of the discussion that led to that, because it was
10
8 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Nevertheless, that is how it is now. Next question. I'm not going to pronounce the whole name again. This is from Katori, asking, are there any plans to get rid of the favor reduction for upgrading legendaries? This system is kind of meh when the best way to upgrade your legendaries is by not upgrading them and waiting for dismantle, because you can't sustain your gem farm favor.
Yeah, so I think the answer to this, I think we've gotten a similar question to this before, and the answer to this is, I think, yes. I think that the favor reduction for upgrading legendaries is a little bit redundant. It's very easy to game, where if you sort of do an adventure and go to your wall and then upgrade legendaries, you can just reset and get all of that favor back. So I think that down the road, when we get sort of the dev cycles, we will look into removing this from the UI there and removing it from the calculations.
Now, I was just looking at the chat, and they were suggesting actually it should be a dodecahedron formation. I think, some layers actually.
Mm-hmm. No, we'll go to like the 3D chess from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I never knew how to play that,
I'll get you a set for your birthday. I'm sure they've got it on Amazon. Let's see here. Next question is from Vincent X. I figured it out. And their question is, will you please add extra GUI scaling options? On a 4K monitor, the option to boost GUI scaling to 125% works fine for the larger elements, but many of the text elements are microscopic. Thanks.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a long-running issue. It is something that we had been meaning to get to for quite a long time, and it's something that just hasn't been able to be prioritized. The best option right now for doing this is actually just to use the like the built-in application scaling. Like if you're on Windows, you go into the application properties and set the scaling to somewhere between 125 and 200%, which will get you a much larger game, and then you can just set the resolution to 1080p or whatever makes sense at that scaling setting. It is something that we want to get to, but I think sort of the way that features and other content creation has been prioritized, it's not something that we're likely to get to in the immediate future. So the best thing to do is just use the window scaling for that. But admittedly, it is definitely something that has been on the list, but something that we haven't been able to prioritize, so it hasn't gotten done. Okay, next question. This one is from OG17. They ask, why are diagonals so rarely used in ability design as opposed to columns? Gazrik's Snowflake is the only example that comes to mind. Granted, diagonals are harder to visualize, but Gazrik's graphics make it clear who's affected. Other diagonal abilities could follow that lead. Gazrik's graphics. So it's supposed to be a tongue twister, maybe.
I think you did that quite well. I mean, this kind of piggybacks on the question we kind of just had about why we went with the kind of the hex grid design, and why we, I guess, even if we didn't intend to do it initially for Crusaders, which I still argue that we did, we certainly were very intentional about it when we brought it over to Idle Champions. And so I think that you answered the question in the question. Diagonals are harder to visualize. What we mean by diagonals is not as easy to visualize as what we mean by adjacent, or what we mean by in the same column, or what we mean by in front or behind. And so I think that we did try with Gazrik to sort of do it on a diagonal, and I think it worked okay. But it's not something that I would necessarily dive into doing on too many more champions. I think we already have issues with sort of visualization in the formation of what abilities are affecting what champions, or how what champions are being affected by a given champion's abilities. So I think that overly complicated positional stuff like diagonals is something we will not likely dive too much into in the future. Never say never, though.
Never?
I said never say never.
You said it first. Okay, next question. This is from Rough Rider 1995. Are silver chest drop rates truly a company secret that can't be shared with us players?
So I swear that we have actually shared these before. So no. There we go. That is the answer to the question. They are not a company secret. Do you remember what they are?
Silver chest drop rates? Like from a boss?
Yeah, I think
it just 1 in 100?
I think it's 3 in 100. I think it's 3% is the default. Okay. Sean called it a secret.
Oh, I see. Sean just didn't know off the top of his head. That's why.
So I believe it's 3%, and I think that there are some blessings that can increase it slightly. And then I think the chance of a silver chest upgrading to a gold chest within that is like a 1% chance or something like that. But it can also be increased with blessings. So it varies depending on your blessings and perks and other things that can affect that.
Okay.
Let's see.
I see you highlighted that. You're throwing me under the bus here, Justin.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, we've made some progress on that, so we can speak to that. So this is a question from Mayhem Disaster, who asks...
That's a good...
Yeah, it's a good person to ask this question. And they say, with the issues around the server outages, are you considering hiring any infrastructure/operations expertise on your team?
So the answer around that is that no, we don't have enough sort of server operations work to have someone who has that dedicated as their job. Managing the server is actually something that I end up doing for the most part. And sometimes we do run into issues where there are outages from time to time. We did run into an issue. I think it's obviously what's brought up this question was an outage that happened last Wednesday. And this issue actually didn't happen due to sort of an infrastructure issue per se. It happened because there was some code that was rolled out, actually something related to the new collections dialogue. that wasn't supposed to be out yet, that was iterating over sort of the calculation of all of the additional data for that over and over and over and over again, which had actually all of the servers running about 35 to 40% hotter than they should have been, which then connected with a release actually caused some of them to run out of system memory, which was something that once we caught that it would have been doing that, and then rolled that code back, everything sort of returned back to sort of its normal level. So the nice thing about that one is we knew exactly what happened with it, but it's one of those things where having someone who was an operations expertise or operations just sort of monitoring that may or may not have caught that to begin with, because it happened literally the day before that code went out, and then with the update it sort of hit that breaking point. But it is, like I say, something in this case we figured out exactly what it was and fixed that up. So hopefully that sort of thing happens, at a limited rate, although, it is something that does happen from time to time. Next question. This one is from Cassius335, and they would like to know, Nate Dragon Champion, when? Or Natalie?
These are good. That's a good question. It's a funny question. So these are characters from the aforementioned.
Aforementioned?
The aforementioned.
Don't you aforemention something?
The aforementioned. I'm just potato. From the previously mentioned game Bushwhacker, or Bushwhacker 2, I guess. Nate's in Bushwhacker 1, isn't he? Is he just in Bushwhacker 2?
Yes.
Anyway,
to say
they're from the Bushwhacker games, from the Bushwhacker series. They are unlikely, I would say, to come to Idle Champions, and probably one of the unlikely to happen. We would like to hold on to that IP rather than sharing it with Wizards.
Whoa. That's a good question, how that actually works. But
I don't know, and it's probably not something we want to get too deep into.
You started it. Okay. Also, considering Nate Dragon is a parody of Nathaniel Drake, who is a parody of Indiana Jones.
Yeah. No, we're gonna get all sorts of companies after us.
Sort of okay. Next question. This is from the Grey Donvoy. Cool. The question is, regarding the Thayan Enclave Awards, is it correct that the skins and GEs go to wild offers eventually, and feats will go to the gem store eventually, and pigments just disappear?
Yes, that is correct. My understanding, is that the skins and GEs will go into wild offers, I think 3 months after they're no longer available in the Thayan Enclave, which would be 3 months after the next emergence for the stuff that's new for this one. And then, feats go into the gem store on a similar timeline, and any pigments you don't purchase will just become unavailable.
Yes, they don't disappear eventually, they disappear immediately.
Well, they disappear after the next. Each one will last, each set of pigments will last through this emergence to and through the next one, and then they'll disappear.
I'm seeing in the chat, Justin, that they believe aforementioned is the Canadian pronunciation.
That's probably it.
It's the A. And it's spelled with
Canadian,
an E. Okay. Next question / suggestion / just they're simply begging. Please bring all of the Baldur's Gate 3 characters eventually. All of them, please. This is from the Zork.
I think that's something we'd like to do, except, of course, for your custom character that you rolled. As we mentioned before, no custom characters in the game.
Right, because we only have the Fallout character creator, not the Baldur's Gate 3 one.
That is correct. Check the clip. I think I think the last I said is that we were bringing, this is making the point. I think they just meant the companion characters, not every single character in Baldur's Gate 3.
It's open to interpretation,
but maybe. So I think last we talked, we were talking about, we've got at least 4. I think at this point, the last I've seen on the calendar, we've got at least 6 now. So I can't say who they are, but definitely there are more on the plate there.
More.
It might have been up to 7. I'm not sure. It's either 6 or 7. There's a bunch coming.
Yeah, I mean, your name is Justin. It's not Dupuy. I don't think you have to spoil the. Yeah.
Yes. It says, can't wait to play Unnamed Gnome number 5. I'm really looking forward to playing Shopkeeper number 1764.
It's not a very creative name. Next,
Shopkeeper 1063 was taken.
Next question. This is from Gauntlet Blade. The question is, Eliwick is neat, but is there any chance that we'll get some more MTG characters? A group like the Gatewatch would be really cool.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. I don't know whether there's any more Magic the Gathering characters on the list, but I know there are definitely some that are available for us to potentially transform into champions. I know those are discussions that we've had in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised to see one. I just don't know when it's going to happen.
Okay. Next question. This is from Rough Rider 1995. When should we expect an announcement regarding the launch of Season 5?
Yeah, so I asked this question in the marketing channel because I'm like, we probably, like, you guys probably know when we're going to announce this. And the answer I got was tomorrow morning. So apparently tomorrow morning, we can expect some more information about the launch of Season 5.
Perfect. Okay, next question. This is from Gurugi. That's it. It's just Gurugi.
Yeah.
And they ask, sorry if this is, well, I guess they say, sorry as if, I'm going to start again. Sorry if this has been asked before. Are there any plans to change the way bounty contracts work? It is extremely, emphasis is my own, annoying to open 2,000 plus small bounty contracts, 50 at a time. Maybe a way to convert them to medium and large so it doesn't demand so much from the server.
Yeah, so I think that we have answered this before. I'm surprised you didn't just let me ask you this question because I know you've got a good answer for it. With bounty contracts, I think that it's not necessarily something that stresses the server. I think it's just legacy-wise, those sliders have always gone up to 50, and now that we've added a slider for opening chests to go up to 1,000, I don't think there's a huge deal with adding, or a huge issue with making the bounty contracts and potentially even blacksmithing contracts go up to the same. Blacksmithing might be a little bit more because I know that does go to the server. So I'd have to look at that, but certainly bounty contracts don't necessarily go to the server. They just award you gold and potentially event currency just on the client, and
they go to the server eventually, because I do know there's a question that I was supposed to bring up with Mark when he got back. When he was, I mean, to be fair, he was on vacation for the last 3 weeks, but was that if you open enough of them to enough, I think it was E to the. How many?
E to the 6
some
or
high
E to
number.
7. Yes.
Yes, that it wasn't saving properly.
Yes.
But definitely sort of the primary reason why we had a limitation on the bounty contracts was the number of drops that came down when you ran them, which I know initially when we were doing implementation on that, did end up having a lot of condensing happen because it got enough to the point where it made a noticeable delay in your game, and then quite a mess. So I think it would take a little bit of finessing to get that to open larger than 50, but I think there's no reason we can't do that. And it probably should be on the list there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that we definitely we do some checking on that on the server side because because we want to make sure that the number of event tokens that you're trying to claim you got from them lines up with the number of bounty contracts that you used, and make sure you had those bounty contracts and all that stuff. So you can't just say, hey, now I have 6 billion event tokens. So there is some server checking on that, but I think it's small enough that it can be handled.
That'll buy you a lot of chests, which will get you a lot of bounty contracts, which will buy you a lot more, which will get you a lot more event tokens, which will buy you a lot of chests.
Someone really ought to look into that.
No, can't have that. Okay, let's see. We got time for one or two more questions. Next question is from Rough Rider 1995. Definitely got some questions in today. Can the Modron reset limit be increased to 2,000? So this is a question that we get every once in a while.
and by every once in a while, I mean every single show. So I think previously we've kind of talked about that we're kind of okay with where it's at. I think it was disparate between console and PC at some point.
Yeah, it was just a text
so I'm not
box
sure
update.
if we got that fixed up. But I think we can look at this reset limit when we're also looking at increasing the actual area cap as well. So probably after whenever we do a
2024, right?
Increase. Yeah, before the end of 2024, as spoken to earlier in the show.
Yeah, I mean, they probably figured they ask enough times. It's kind of a metric.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like this one right down here. So let's ask this, and then we can finish off the episode.
All right, sounds good.
So this is no, I'm going to do that for you. This is from Dzior, who asks, have you ever thought about a Best Support Ticket of the Week award? Or reward. If someone posts a ticket with such great information that it really helps the developers fix a bug, the person rewarding it would get some gold chests.
Yeah, I mean, I think, have we thought of that? Yes, I think that has come up before. That's kind of a tricky one to measure, program. You know. I think we flag in like the Discord rules and other places where we've got sort of community guideline stuff. We do actually have, if you report an exploit that we deem to be significant enough, there is sort of an opportunity there to have a reward of a sort of a bounty reward of X chests of one type or another. But it is kind of a tricky thing to measure, and I know it's something that it's extremely, I guess it's extremely subjective. So it's probably something that we wouldn't be probably not something we'd do just because of that. But it is an idea that we've thought about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
I think that is definitely all we've got time for.
All right. Well, if we didn't get to your question, and we didn't get to a lot of questions this week, don't worry. You will have another opportunity. We will be live again at this same time next week, right? Yes. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was Gabe and Mars, assuming his internet held up. They're the two folks who copy your questions into our questions doc and help to make chat awesome. So thanks to both of you.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game. Because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
And we like what we do.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
All right. It's the best part, Justin. You ready?
Oh, no, I'm not ready. Let me prepare. Okay, go.
All right. Well, my mother used to say that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Lovely woman. Useless surgeon.
Oh.